right, welcome to Blair and Barker, or as we're calling it, the happy part of the post-game show.
Yeah. Hey, try not to say that the entire trade deadline is going to make the team next year. Let's try not to say that. Okay. This show's got some credibility, my friend.
I don't know about
that.
I
mean, you just mentioned every trade.
I did not.
Is on the 2025 team.
We're not going to go back because this is a carryover from Blue Jays talk. If you want to know what you're talking about, shut up. If you want to know what we're talking about, get the pod and listen. Because I don't want to continue the discussion. I don't want it dragging down the quality of this particular show because the discussion was just insipid.
Well, it's your fault.
Once again, Kevin just revealed himself as being anti-Blue Jay, anti-Ross Atkins, and anti-front office.
It's not true. I like winning. Jeff, I'm a winner.
Whereas I, of course,
stop lying about it.
Stood up for everybody.
Okay. Get a cleanup hitter, and then we'll be talking.
Kevin Kiermaier is scheduled to join us at 5 o'clock. He, of course, was traded to the L.A. Dodgers. He, I believe the story is, he was in Baltimore. He flew back today to take care of some business, and then he's going to... And then he's going to fly on to Oakland, I guess, where the Dodgers are playing. And you know, we've talked about Kevin Kiermaier. Think about this: 2 weeks ago, put on waivers. Nobody wants you. A week after that, you announce that you're retiring at the end of the year. The trade deadline comes, and you're a Dodger.
Go win a World Series.
That's
awesome.
All kidding aside, yeah, absolutely good for Kevin Kiermaier. There's not enough good things that can happen to him. So we're happy to see that. As we said, Kevin Kiermaier joins us. Jayson Stark joins us at 5:30, and we'll get his thoughts on the trade deadline. This report that the Yankees reportedly passed on Jack Flaherty due to medical concerns, intriguing because the one thing the Dodgers who got Jack Flaherty really don't need is another starting pitcher to get hurt. Yep. On the other hand, the Yankees, of course, from their experience with Frankie Montas, are probably a little scared of that anyhow. So we'll talk to Jayson Stark about that. But we want to start our show with one of our favorites. He is the editor-in-chief of Baseball America. He's one of the go-to guys for prospects coverage. J.J. Cooper joining us on Blair and Barker. J.J., thanks so much for joining us today. It has been a hectic couple of days for you, I'm sure. Just a general question about the prospects the Blue Jays added at the deadline. Now, obviously, a lot of people are pointing to the Yusei Kikuchi deal, and a lot of people think that was an overpay. First of all, what to you, let's see if we can ask this, what to you is a bad deal involving a prospect?
Sorry, the audio came through a little bit. I think you said, what's the value of a prospect?
No, what's the bad, what to you would be a bad deal involving a prospect? In other words, if you're a team that has prospects and you're trading, is there a bad deal involving a prospect?
I'm sorry, I'm really having trouble with the audio on your end of being able to understand it, but I think I got it, which is, I think I'm going to be able to answer this, which is the thing that I think fans overrate consistently is the hit rate on these prospects at the deadline is actually quite low. Now, every year you will see an example of a player who ends up going on to having a great career. Like, to take example, we had the Juan Soto trade, and James Wood, I know, just reached the majors, but James Wood's probably going to be a 10, 15-year big leaguer. Okay, so that happens. You see trades like that. But what you don't really notice as much, if you're a fan, is the players who, okay, you get 4 players in a deal, and that's the last time you heard of 3 of them, and one of them gets a cup of coffee. The hit rate of a player turning into a really long-term successful big leaguer is a very small percentage of these. That said, what you do want them to do is, okay, you've got kind of 2 ways with the bigger deals. One is you get the guy who's pretty close to the big leagues already, or you get the guy who's really far away and you know that there's a lot of risk to it, but maybe you land a Jordan Alvarez or an O'Neal Cruz. Clearly what the Blue Jays did here, I would say, especially with their biggest trade, is got guys who it's hard to imagine Jake Bloss isn't going to have some sort of big league career because he's already had a little bit of a big league career for a team that's battling for a playoff spot. Joey Luperfino, same thing. He's already shown something of what he can do. Charles McAdoo's in AA. They went with proximity on a lot of these moves, and I do think that actually, in the long run, is going to probably pay well for the Blue Jays in the next couple of years because they need some help. And obviously the moves that they made are kind of about, I would say more about 25, 26, because this feels like this is a window that's closing for Toronto quicker than they expected. But at the same time, that needs to be open, not for the long term. I don't think this is a team ready to embark on a long rebuild again.
JJ, if I'm a Blue Jays fan, should I be worried about the team that gave up, say, a Jake Bloss and a Joey Loperfido?
Yeah, but I would say, like, we talked to a number of analysts, front office officials, scouts from other teams. And to be honest, like, we had some of them say, I don't know if I would trade Bloss for Kikuchi. Like, to have 6 years of Bloss for Kikuchi straight up would have been a good deal for the Blue Jays. Mm-hmm. So the fact that they got more than that, Will Wagner, probably utility man, like if it works out. But to get, let's just try to be really conservative with this. Not that Bloss is going to become an ace, not that Loperfido is going to become a star, anything like that. But if they got a number 4 starter in Bloss for the next 5-6 years, they get a 4th outfielder in Loperfido, and a role player, and they got even kind of an up and down guy in Will Wagner. To get that for 2 months of Kikuchi is a really good deal. It's one of the better deals I think that we're going to see, that took place at the deadline. I think it's one that really did stand out as like, wow, they took advantage of the fact the Astros can kind of see the writing on the wall that their window is closing. Bregman's hitting free agency. Verlander's a free agent at the end of the year. They have, on top of that, Tucker is a free agent after next year. So is a couple of their starting pitchers. They know that their window to succeed here, to keep this, what's been an impressive decade of success in Houston going, they probably did a little bit of an overpay there, and the Blue Jays took advantage.
JJ, it interested me this year because we saw a lot of trades made. We saw a lot of trades made involving prospects. But the guys in the top 100, right? I mean, it's still people think there's a feeding frenzy, but there's still that demarcation line, isn't there? For whatever reason, you don't see top 100 guys in the top 100 generally move. I was going to ask you, like, I understand ranking players and future value and all that. I understand it can be difficult, but that just seems to me to be it's just so stark. I mean, you generally don't see anybody trade one of those elite guys at the trade deadline. Why is that? Beyond, I understand there's a value to young players. They're cost effective, but still, this trade deadline, we thought, the Orioles, boy, they're going to move one of their, one of the top 2 prospects they have. Well, for the most part, they didn't.
The answer I would say is we didn't see those players traded.
Yeah.
Normally at the deadline, we see a Soto traded or a Justin Verlander or a Manny Machado, or, someone who you say the player that this team acquired is a game changer. It's one of the best players in the game. He's the kind of player who is going to transform again. No one player can do everything. Right. We've seen that with Mike Trout and the Angels and all, but a player who can really kind of reshape a team for the postseason, things like that. Those players just weren't traded this year. Like, if you look at it, Garrett Crochet stayed home. Tarek Skubal stayed home. Those were the players. If either of those players had been traded, for instance, that would have involved top 100 prospects. Instead, the best players that we saw traded are middle of the rotation starters. In some cases, starters who are like starting pitchers, you're like, I don't know if they're going to start a playoff game in a lot of cases, but they're going to help you get there. Or useful relievers, but not even like lockdown closers. Devin Williams is still in Milwaukee, for instance. It wasn't someone where you say, this is a moment of truth. The game's over. The 9th inning is taken over because this reliever's running into the game. It was good relievers, but not guys like that. Position player wise, some okay players, but no one where you say, that's a transformative player. And because none of those were traded, what we saw instead were a lot of good prospects. But I mean, no one who we have in our top 100, which is the first time we've been tracking this. We've been doing mid-season lists since 2014. That decade, we've never had a year before where there was no players traded at top 100 prospects traded at the deadline. We didn't see any this year. We ranked 89 prospects who were traded this year, but I would say that really we only have 4 of them who are even kind of I would describe as top 100 adjacent. Like, you can make a case for this guy, because I want to make clear, like, the difference between 1 and 10 on this list is bigger than the difference between 75 and 150.
Right.
Because the truly elite are like Jackson Holliday, James Wood, Paul Skeens, who was our number 1 not that long ago before he went to the big leagues. Guys like that are the guys where you're like, okay, they're just at a cut above everyone else. The difference between if you want to say that so-and-so 75 and I want to say he's 125, there's not as much difference there. If you want to argue that Jake Bloss, who we have ranked 4th as the 4th best prospect traded, is the 3rd best or the 2nd best, I'm probably not going to argue with you too much, because it's all in that range. And that's what the kind of guys that we saw traded this year.
That's a product of the wild card too, isn't it, as well? Just teams look at it and go, we're on 4.5 out. Maybe just getting into, once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. So let's just get a guy who can get us into the playoffs.
And you see teams like the Royals. Hey, credit to the Royals. The Royals are 100% in this. But when's the last time the Royals were like, we're buying at the deadline? Yeah. It's been a while. And they were a team that was buying at the deadline. You look at, the Pirates. The Pirates were buying somewhat at the deadline. Hey, we know we have some problems. Again, they worked out a trade. I really like that trade for the Pirates and the Blue Jays. I think McAdoo's a good player for the Blue Jays to acquire. But, Kiner Falefa, is a really useful utility, kind of almost sells him wrong. Blue Jays fans know this. Like, the value he has is he can play wherever you need him to play and play it well. So you see teams who before were kind of out of it, or were like, is it worth it to try to sneak into the playoffs? Hey, with this format as it is now, there's enough variance there that to get in, win a couple of series, and all of a sudden a season that was an okay season where you won 88 games becomes a season to remember.
Yeah, I just wondering, you mentioned McAdoo, and I wondered, that was the one, right? Because average and power don't grow on trees. He's a 22-year-old, and I wonder about Pittsburgh wanting to give him up. I know they were catching a little bit of heat because of the IKF sort of, 1-for-1. What does the industry think of Charles, and why do you think Pittsburgh did that?
Well, I mean, for one, you do have to give up value to get value, right? Like, the thing that a lot of these trades are that did jump out with a lot of these is when you're talking about the better players, you did see good prospects given up in return. If I'm trying to worst case scenario, McAdoo is a guy who kind of made a step forward this year. Like, coming into the year, he wasn't as highly regarded as he is now. Great first half of the year high at Greensboro. High at Greensboro is a good place to hit. Should note that. But he's made it up to AA now. He's still showing power there. There is some defensive versatility. There is some athleticism. But again, if I'm the Pirates, it's the kind of prospect, there's a 50-50 shot here, right? This is not a guy who's a slam dunk. Oh, you're going to pencil him in your lineup next year, and you're not going to worry about it again until 2028. He could develop into that kind of guy, but there's some risk there. There's some variance there where if you're the Pirates, you're like, okay, we're willing to take that risk. And especially IKF was having a very solid year. Like, he's having a year where you're like, okay, we feel very comfortable, especially for a team. I find the Pirates to be a very watchable team this year because of schemes, Cruz, because of, when Jones was healthy, Keller even. But it does seem like every time I watch him, I feel like it's like Paul Skeens has, shut down the opponent for 7 innings, and he walks off the mound, and he's either got a 1-run lead that's 1-0, or it's 2-1, or he's down 1-0, or it's 1-1, or whatever. They need some help, and this is what they had to do to kind of get that help, because they do know that they have to have more offense in their lineup, and they really kind of need a little bit of they need a little bit of versatility with that too, because this kind of gives them a little bit more of that plug and play where it's like, do you need him at short today? Do you need him at third? Do you need him in the outfield? Wherever it is, he can do it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Peter Bendix, the job he did with the Marlins at the deadline, collecting the prospects that they got, people automatically just kind of went, well, that's the Tampa Bay Rays executive in him coming out. Is there, and beyond acquiring those players, is there a Rays type when it comes to, quote unquote, collecting a pitcher or collecting a prospect?
The danger, I think, of what the Marlins did, and it's a small danger because they weren't going anywhere let's just be clear. They weren't really going anywhere already. But the danger is when I think our count is 19 prospects that they acquired, if you count the players that they acquired in the Arias trade, which happened a while back. But if you count that, 19 players this year. Well, the danger with this is you have a 40-man roster. Not every one of these prospects they acquired is going to be a Rule 5 decision, a 40-man roster decision this offseason, but some of them are. And so if you acquire a lot of players who then you turn around and go, okay, well, we're either going to have to protect them all in the 40-man, or you say, well, we're not. Well, if you're not, then you didn't acquire something very good, right? Because if you have players who everyone else is like, nah, we're good, you just leave them unprotected, that's a role player at best. But if you have to protect all these guys, and again, not everyone they traded fits this category, but a lot of them do. If you do, then you also could face some roster issues. The thing I love about what they did, though, is that was a team, especially lineup-wise, kind of you felt like wasn't going really much of anywhere. And now they have a catcher, Agustin Ramirez, who we'll see if he can catch, but could be an everyday regular for them because he's really got a good bat. He's in AAA. They got a first baseman, Devison De Los Santos, who, if everything breaks right, could hit 25-plus homers in the big leagues. Connor Norby could be their second baseman. Kyle Stowers could be an outfielder. They got a lot of guys who you're not saying wait till 2027. You're saying this guy could be in the lineup next week or at the latest early 2025. So that's going to make that team potentially, definitely cheaper, which is a win in Miami, unfortunately, because that's been kind of the MO. But on top of that, could make them better in a few years because also the guys they gave up in most cases weren't really part of their long-term plans anymore.
JJ, really good of you to join us, man. Thanks so much. Terrific insight.
Thanks, JJ.
Be well.
Thank y'all.
JJ Cooper is editor-in-chief of Baseball America. You can follow him on Twitter at JJCoop36.
Nice.
And it's interesting. I mean, Baseball America, he's their editor-in-chief. There's Baseball America, there's Fangraphs, and MLB Pipeline are kind of the three ranking systems. But it was interesting, and I think it was important fans to hear JJ talk about the difference between 1 and 10 when these organizations rank guys. The difference between 1 and 10 is much greater than the difference between
75 and 150
or 125. And that's what we've talked about, how there really is a beauty is in the eye of the beholder thing. There may be, especially now with people talking about pitch shapes and things like that, there's stuff that certain organizations just love. Other organizations just kind of shrug their shoulders at, and that's why it is, it's really difficult to sit there and look at all these guys and try to.
It's almost impossible, basically.
But you do,
trying to predict the future, basically, right? That's what I think. If you get as many athletes as you possibly can, you can sort of mold that into right. You got to think though. You
got to think the Jays with these guys they acquired. You got to think at some point one of them will become that left-handed hitter or switch hitter who helps you.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think intriguing a little bit that Ross mentioned Clase, right? That he is the guy with the highest upside. I think that's sort of telling to how their organization says sort of. I don't want to say rated or ranked these guys, but he's not going to come out and say that unless they really feel that way.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear.
Because he's an athlete.
To trade a dude under control like IKF for just one guy really does indicate that somebody in this organization really likes the guy. Maybe he was the guy they considered drafting. I mean, who knows? Who knows what the tie?
I don't think you can teach power. The kid's got tremendous power. It's just everything else, right? It's sort of honing it in, the mindset, the routines, just baseball's never been harder when it comes to how you go out and sort of eliminate all the outside noise and see ball, hit ball. It's not the easiest thing to do. I know I've talked to enough of the hitters nowadays that's part of it. And young kids, I'm assuming they have the same information at that level. Probably not to the degree that they do at the big league level, but they still got it, right? The shifts and all the some of the things that you have to deal with and yeah, I'm sure it's not the easiest thing. So just getting a guy who has raw power, this gets back to that development part of it. coaches at that level have never been more important, right? Because there's not as many levels and there's not as many kids and they're in a hurry. Let's hurry them up and get them to the big leagues as fast as you can. And that means that developer has to be really good and understand what this person does well and be quick about the adjustments. And this is why I said about Loperfido. It's an obvious adjustment that either he has to make or you figure out ways to help the hands. It's a top hand heavy guy when you're doing what he does with his lower half. So sort of goes the same way when it comes to prospects.
So Loperfido's up here now. Ross Atkins has said that Jonathan Clase is the guy that probably has the highest upside. We know they really like McAdoo. I want to continue the discussion we had on Blue Jays Talk, and hopefully we'll do it this time without yelling at each other, although
it wasn't really a yell.
If it turns into that, it's usually generally quite entertaining and quite often a sign that I'm right.
You picked every player.
I did not. That's not where I want to go to.
If you want to lose next year, every player that you picked up can't make the team.
That's not where I want to go with this. That's not where I want to go with this. That's just that was just uncalled for, and you should apologize to me. But
it's Wednesday.
It is. Addison Barger's coming off a couple of pretty good games offensively.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to ask you this. If let's just assume that Clase is a guy who's got the highest ceiling. Loperfido is here. We know he's here. He's batting today. We're led to believe that Will Wagner's a guy they might look at as a bench guy. Who of this group is quote unquote under pressure right now?
Which group you talking about?
Varsho, Schneider.
Varsho's your everyday center fielder.
I'm sorry, not Varsho. Pardon me. Just let me. Barger, Schneider, Jimenez, Baroa. Which of that group? Because now you've got.
Baroa's probably not on your team next year. I mean, he's a depth guy at the minor league level.
These are all guys who are going to be. They're going to be auditioning for jobs the next 2 weeks. And what I'm saying is, who has the biggest hill to climb of that group?
Because you got rid of
the smallest hill to climb. How about that?
Because you got rid of IKF. Leo Jimenez has probably got a little leg up when it comes to the extra middle infielder. Bo comes back. He's raring and ready to go. He's happy. They've shook hands. We're going to meet in the middle. We're going to give this thing a last run. Leo's done enough that he'll catch the balls he should catch, and he'll give you competitive at bat. I think that's it, right? Mm-hmm. Ernie Clement, for me, he's on the team. Just what he does defensively, offensively, can sit over there for 4 days, look the exact same then as he would 4 days later. I like that. Horowitz, probably as of right now, you would think because of all the other heavy lifting.
What about Barger?
Probably is your everyday second baseman. Addison Barger, if I go out and get a better outfielder, it comes down to him and Schneider. This is what I get back to. Mm-hmm. You got about 50 games if you're Davis Schneider to show the organization that you can annihilate left-handed pitching. That, when you face a lefty, you better just destroy them. That, for me, is his asset. Right-handed, for whatever reason, he's talked himself in. He just don't like the elevated fastball, and he just can't hit it. Right today, I mean, he's standing up taller because Rodriguez throws an elevated fastball. The only thing about that is, for whatever reason, when he starts his swing, he sits. It's like the George Springer thing. If I'm going to start straight up and down, I hit straight up and down. I don't do this. When I do start sort of sitting in my legs, what's my barrel do? It follows. It's got a loop in it. When I got a loop in it, what do? I miss fastballs. I should be hammering. That gets back to that development thing when it comes to the hitting coaches. Man, it's been going on. It just frustrates to no end. To answer your question, It's those two guys.
Yeah.
It's Schneider and Barger. One's left-handed, one's right-hander. Depending on what you go out and get, the last 50-ish games, those two guys for me are in the fight.
Yeah, no, that's what I was getting at, because with Loperfido, you do have that lefty bat. That's what I was.
Seems like they're going to give him every opportunity to.
Yeah. Barger's power, though, is intriguing.
Yeah, unless I go out and get Santander and then gloves off, boy.
Jayson Stark joins us at 5:30. Jayson Stark of The Athletic joins us at 5:30. Kevin Kiermaier, he's now with the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's scheduled to join us next. It's Blair and Barker on the Sportsnet Radio Network and Sportsnet. All right, welcome back to Blair and Barker, the post-game edition of Blair and Barker. The Blue Jays 10-4 losers to the Baltimore Orioles earlier today. Jackson Holliday, his first career home run, a grand slam. Madison Barger had a home run for the Blue Jays. Decent day for George Springer. Vladdy Jr., we mentioned Addison Barger had a couple of hits. And Joey Loperfido, his first start for the Blue Jays in left field, got a single. Yeah, but
I can't wait to see him again. I think that's what I came away with.
Paulo Espino and Yuri Rodriguez, not very good. And the Orioles are a very good team.
Yeah, they don't. You better have some equipment. You facing that lineup?
Yeah.
If you don't, if all you got's a little get me over spinner, and them dudes on that on deck circle are going, "Well, I feel what you doing, licking my chops over there, and can't wait to run up to the." Oh boy, that's what they were doing.
No, they are.
They're a handful.
Newsflash: they are a handful.
Add and subtract both sides of the plate. You better have to do it with some authority. If you don't, they use the entire field. They got a bunch of hitters on their team, right? They got young dudes, but them young dudes are hitters. They're not swingers. Like, they're not the Bargers of the world where you're taking 3 Big Daddy hacks. No, you shorten up. You use a big part of the field. Like, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You know what else was fun to watch for Blue Jays fans?
Absolutely.
And of course, Russ as well, was watching Kevin Kiermaier play defense for the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays trading Kevin Kiermaier to the LA Dodgers yesterday in a deal that saw Ryan Yarbrough join the Blue Jays. He is not yet with the team, but we are very pleased at this time to be joined by Kevin Kiermaier. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us today. I understand you're back in the city getting stuff cleaned up before you go to join the Dodgers, so we'll endeavor to get to it right away. Now that you've had a chance to have it all sink in and talk to people and think about it a little more, very simple question. What's it like to get traded at the trade deadline?
Well, this is all this is all new territory for me. Sorry, I'm trying to get set up. But it's crazy just because I was sitting there in that clubhouse yesterday getting ready for the game, and then DeMarlo Hill just gives me a little nod or a little finger wave like that. Go right into Schneid's office, and then he has Ross on the phone, and they let me know right there that I'm going to the Dodgers. And like I said, it's crazy because 1 minute you're a Blue Jay, then you look up, and a minute later you're a Dodger. It all happens that fast, and then you sit here and get your goodbyes in, and got a little workout while the game started yesterday just to do something to keep my body just keep going in a way, and then showered up and head back to the hotel, and woke up early this morning, back to Toronto, packing up. So this is all uncharted waters for me, but just trying to take care of everything and got to head out west. And that's just, it is what it is. And, I'm going to a really good team, and we'll see what happens.
Kevin, what's the first thing you thought of? I know you announced your retirement, and that's pretty cool that you got to do that with a long career and, you being one of the best center fielders ever. Well, what's the first thing? First time DeMarlo told you that, what's the first thing that went through your mind? Was it your family? Was it, at least I'm going to the Dodgers. At least I got a chance of winning a World Series. I think I've earned this. Like, what's the first thing that went through your mind?
Yeah. Honestly, I was in shock because I don't know, there was a part of me that I thought I could be dealt. I know, just where we're at as a team and like all the salary, like with the luxury tax threshold, stuff like that. I understand any salary we could offset, we were going to try to do. But with it coming down to like the last 30 minutes, I thought for a chance I was going to play. And then, after the game, I didn't know what was going to happen, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. I got called in the office. They told me, and first thing that came to mind was honestly being grateful. Like, you just sit there, you just hug everyone right away, hug Schneid's right away. Then everyone catches word of it, and then you just go around the whole clubhouse and thank everyone for everything. And man, it's a sad moment, but you have to accept it and move on. And I went from a team where we underperformed all year, and none of us thought this was going to happen. And then, go to a team who's first in their division and a perennial all-star or postseason team. And I'm, announced my retirement not long ago. And it's just one of those things like, hey, I want to play for a ring. This is my last crack at it, and I'm going to a great place for it.
Kevin, how do you separate? I know there was 8 different guys, including yourself, that got traded for the Blue Jays. A lot of these guys are older guys, been around a long time. And I would think the human side of that, trying to compete, I would think the last couple of weeks you sort of knew you had a chance, right? You just mentioned that. But there's a lot of other guys. The conversation, the human side of that, how hard is it to separate, knowing that may happen, knowing that that's sort of going to get turned upside down, knowing that this is your last, little hurrah at this thing, and knowing that you still got to go to the batting cage, go out and work your tail off, take all the fly balls.
Dive. You got to dive after a ball into the gap.
For the organization that it might trade you, that human part of it, how hard is that?
It's the difficult thing about it is when you're not winning. There's nothing worse than when you're not winning as many games as what you think you should. It from a physical and mental toll it takes on you, it's crazy. And for us as a team, once again, none of us expected any of this to happen. We knew we were going to have our ups and downs throughout the season, but to be at this point, it is what it is. And from a personal standpoint, it's a lot more fun when you're taking the field knowing that you're playing for October, especially once you get like the second half of the season right now, which we're almost 2 weeks into. It's one of those things where like these are the tough July and August. They're tough, and you need that motivation to get you going, because I don't care how much money you're making or how old you are. It's hard. It's hard on all ends with just what we deal with throughout the year, but you got to go out there and you got to play. And for me, just with the state of our team, I knew that you got to go out there and play for pride, which is one thing. I like to play for October though, and whether the team just let me go completely or worked out a trade, I was hoping I was going to have a chance to go somewhere one way or another, because this is how I would want to envision my career ending. And now that I'm with the Dodgers, the unknown is so fun to think about, because you sit here and think about the potential of what the rest of the season could be like, and hopefully, advance to October and have a ton of success there and a lot of fun there as well. That's what goes through my mind. And, here I am today, but this being my last day in Toronto, it's hitting me. And, I'm thankful and grateful for every opportunity thrown my way, especially this year. I sent something out not long ago, and I thank the Blue Jays fans for being so great to me. I said when I first got here, I said, please love me through thick and thin. I can be a really good player at times, and there's other times where this game gets sped up on me, and it will be really hard. And I had times of that last year, but obviously this year couldn't get anything going, and it bothers me more than anyone. But I see how other players on different teams get treated when you're not playing good. And for me, going out there, every time my name was announced, people always gave me a great ovation, and they appreciated the way I played the game. And I will never forget that. I will never forget how much the Toronto fans and everyone here in this organization, the city, country, everyone means to me. And I stand here today like very thankful and grateful. I'm happy. I wish the Blue Jays nothing but the best, but sometimes things don't go your way, and it wasn't our year to thrive, but hopefully much success for them coming in the near future.
Kevin, what happened to this team offensively this year? And I'm not going to ask you to play GM here, but you've been a teammate of Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s for a couple of years now. They have to sign Vladdy, don't they? I cut to the chase. They got to sign Vladdy, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, with especially what he's done the last month and a half, I mean, it's absolutely incredible. He is on a tear, and I tell him that all the time. And I was glad I had a moment with him the other day, and I said, I would come and pay to watch you play when you have like this demeanor, this attitude showing up. And ever since that haircut, I don't know what it was about it, but he just hit a different gear, and it's always in him. But he has to live up to so much expectations. Like, last year, like I know people give him a lot of grief. I think he hit like 278, probably higher than that, 24 homers and 96 RBIs. And that's a down year for Vladdy. And I know how hard baseball is. And when I see my teammates or like peers being expected to do these crazy things, and I know once you do it, everyone expects you, which if you do it one time, it's incredible knowing how hard the game is to me. But these guys who do it year in, year out, it is absolutely incredible. And Vladdy he's the best player in the big leagues right now. He is so locked in, hits everything hard as can be. The other night, 3 doubles, a homer in the second game of that doubleheader. He is all sorts of locked in right now, and a phenomenal human being. I love him. So if I was GM, I'd be paying the man, but I'm center fielder, so it doesn't matter what I think. But he is he's going to be incredible for years to come. He just has it. Obviously, I know I'm stating the obvious, but he's on a different planet right now.
Yeah, last one before we let you go. After you win the World Series and you're at home, you get your ring, how would you like fans to remember you?
You know, I always say this. I know I'm not the most talented dude on the field. Can't always control the results of everything, rightfully so, but every time I take that field, I care more than anyone who's out there. I promise you that, and I will play hard as anyone. And you guys saw me late in my career, and I still went out there every day and gave it 100% and played through a lot of pain, just like a lot of my teammates. But I just felt like I played the game the right way and old school, and that's what I want to be remembered as. I wasn't into the swag or looking cool. I was trying to get results and show my teammates I was willing to do anything and everything to win games, and that's what I'm about.
Kevin, listen, man, the 2 great jerseys to wear in the majors are the Yankees and the Dodgers jersey. It's going to look really good on you. We wish you a lot of success.
Absolutely.
Please stay healthy and just, go get it.
Absolutely.
Go get it, man. Thanks for your time.
All right.
Good luck, man.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. Kevin Kiermaier, now with the LA Dodgers. That's true.
Pretty
Dodgers-Yankees jerseys.
Absolutely.
You know what's going to happen, of course.
He's going to win the World Series.
And
he's going to rob somebody of it.
I was just thinking that.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
I'll make a prediction. If the Dodgers win the World Series, there will be what I call a Kodak moment. People don't even remember Kodak. There will be a Kevin Kiermaier. I almost said Pilar.
Too, yeah.
He's in LA too now.
Yeah.
There will be a Kevin Kiermaier moment that you're going to be seeing. And, whenever remember when the Dodgers won the World Series in 2024, you're going to see that picture of him diving for some ball.
Yeah.
Listen, we've talked about it, and I've said this several times. I think Kevin, first of all, I think the Jays did him a solid by doing this, but I also think Kevin, Kevin is at that point in his career where, you're not going to be an everyday guy.
I'd like to think that the Blue Jays did him a solid, but listen to David Sampson when I ask him the same thing.
Yeah, but
that's not how organizations work. And,
no,
Yarborough can help this team sort of eat innings and.
Yeah, but here's the thing. But they could have cut him.
I guess.
Ain't anyhow.
I mean, they got a little something for him too. I mean, you still got to play out the last 50 games. I get your point, and we'll go with what you said.
Yeah. No, I think it's. But it. Look, you're right. It's the perfect match for both teams. Yarborough comes in here, he answers a need, and we know that
they have a need.
They have a need for that. I mean, after what you saw today, you wouldn't. I
just know that Kevin's mastered timing in the outfield. Right, everything he does was timing oriented. Right, it's the jump. It was perfect timing. It was when he left his feet. It was perfect timing. When he started his dive, it was perfect timing. When
the
ball was in the glove, it was timing.
He's at the top of the defensive stats. All those underlying defensive stats.
One of the best ever defensively. Yeah. Just everything he does, how fast he was, how again the way he could rob a ball, the nooks and crannies in the outfield where he just sort of knew where everything was at to leave his feet. Like you just knew ball went up, he's catching it, no matter where it's at. Even if it was over the fence. So
I also think it's pretty funny that he and Pilar and
one's on a crappy team and one's on the a good team.
Yeah,
I don't want to say a great team, but once they get back and close to 100% healthy, they're going to be a handful. The Dodgers.
Yeah.
They got to get bats back.
I just, we'll talk to Jayson Stark about that. I would be concerned about that, about the Yankees passing on and that was a Ken Rosenthal report that the Yankees passed on Flaherty because of medical concerns. And apparently those concerns were shared.
Dodgers had to do something.
Dodgers had to do something.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they spent
and I think J.J. Cooper made the point, it really is, hey, we saw that interview with Chris Getz, the Chicago White Sox general manager, basically talking about how Garrett Crochet and Garrett Crochet's agent screwed him. Sure. There were a lot of teams that got screwed by Garrett Crochet and his agent. Because 3 weeks ago, right? Guys were absolutely, teams were thinking about him.
Oh, the Dodgers, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he's dominant. He's when he's good, he's unhittable.
And I wonder, I don't know if anybody would ask him. I wonder if he, Crochet and his agent, would like a redo now. I wonder.
I think he believes what he believes. You got a small window to. He's already had Tommy John. He feels like organizations don't care about how much they throw him. It's his first time.
There is evidence there. There is evidence to that.
I think you get paid to throw. You get your butt out there and throw. That's what I think. But that's me. I know what I had to do to get the stats on the back of my baseball card. But again, I'm not arguing. Dude feels that way about his career. But I do think it's about the agent saying one thing and then doing the opposite of what he said. I don't think that's the right way to go about it.
No, I think that may be one of those. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to put myself into Chris Getz's, into his position. And it's sort of, how do you handle this going forward?
Industry's about trust, right? I mean, we've had David Sampson on this, and I asked him about how do you trust, how do you know? And that relationship, agent, GM, that's a big deal, right?
Ross Atkins spoke to the media yesterday after the expiration of the trade deadline. Of course, Kevin Kiermaier is now, we've just had Kevin Kiermaier on. He's with the Dodgers. Ryan Yarbrough scheduled to join the team. We saw Joey Loperfido today. The Jays traded Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, Kevin Kiermaier, Trevor Richards to the Minnesota Twins. I cannot believe the Minnesota Twins did not do more. Justin Turner and Jimmy Garcia to the Mariners, Nate Pearson to the Cubs. You see what Nate Pearson did? Gave up a home run and then hit a guy in the head and was ejected from the game. Stay hot. You already mentioned it. Danny Jansen went to the what?
He'll be a starter next year.
Yeah, I think he will too. Danny Jansen went to the Boston Red Sox. So the Jays were obviously active at the deadline, really addressed organizational depth. I want to play a couple of clips from Ross Atkins from his news conference yesterday, talking about just the complementary pieces being added to the roster.
The things that I've alluded to about finding better complementary pieces that will help us with our roster construction. I think the opportunities, the underlying issues that we can see are clear areas that we can work on are, one, that building a better 26-man roster and the depth around it that complements, the individuals are complementing others in a better way, and especially as it relates to the run scoring. We have to find a way to create a better run scoring environment, and we feel that the handedness, the power opportunities, the dynamic and versatile athletes that we have added will help us towards that as something that has been an underlying issue. That's probably the largest one. On a smaller scale, there's always going to be opportunities for adjustments and deployment that we'll have to continue to dig into and make sure we're improving.
And also, Ross Atkins made this comment I found particularly interesting. I mean, I'm sure there's a little Captain Obvious thing to it, but how he viewed this trade deadline. He put it in the context as the first step towards improving the roster and continuing to contend in 2025, 2026.
Yeah, this was the first step towards that. And, there's several ways to make acquisitions, which we will continue to have to do. We're going to have to add in free agency and via trade. And we've just increased the likelihood of doing that by creating more depth and increased flexibility. The versatility, the dynamic athleticism that we've acquired to complement the pieces that are here was a big part of our goal. And we feel that we've accomplished that.
And the reason I brought that up, of course, is as the Jays have shown in the past, and I think, we were kind of going back and forth, Kevin, during Blue Jays talk about how many of these guys might make the roster next year. I don't know that, but I'll guarantee you, a couple of these dudes are going to be traded in the offseason.
You would think so.
To get some of the
Look,
things.
I would have loved to have heard him say that they need an aircraft carrier or two. He didn't say that. Complimenting is not the same as aircraft carrier.
But he was asked about
it's not the same.
He was asked. No, he was asked about adding what he added at the deadline. Here is what he was.
No,
answering.
he said going into the offseason, it was complimenting what he already had. That, in my mind, is not what they need. They already have that, and those little the people that Joey Loperfidos and the Will Wagners. That's why that's the get them on, get them over kind of guys. I'm talking about that is in scoring position when he's walking to the plate. That for me is what they need. No?
Yeah, but that wasn't the question.
That's not what I heard him say. That's what I want him to. I would love to have heard him say.
That's not.
We need a couple of dudes.
Well, I think when you obviously talking about better run scoring environment, that's part of it. But I got the exact opposite. That was what did you get at the deadline? We got a bunch of complimentary pieces. That's what he was saying, and they did. They got a bunch of complimentary pieces. As he said, now you go out and you have to add in free agency and via trade. So
yeah, I think he can. To your point, I think he's going to use a bunch of the trade pieces that he got to get a catcher. I think he's going to have to pay for the aircraft carriers. Yeah, there's some out there like you. I can write me off a couple. Christian Walker, Brandon Lau. That's a good one. Gets hurt a lot, but he can thump. He's left-handed. Juan Soto, that ain't happening. But you like to throw it in there. You like to close your eyes and dream. Teoscar Hernandez, we said that till we're purple. Santander, yeah. Tyler O'Neill, that was an opportunity before.
You call him an aircraft carrier?
Who? He's right-handed who can thump. On the on-deck circle, a manager has to think about him. I'm not saying he's the only one, but if you wanted to go a little cheaper,
none of them are as good as Vladdy. None of them are as good as Vladdy.
With Vladdy.
Yeah, but none of them are as good as Vladdy.
Vladdy's shown you with Bo. That combination ain't good enough to carry you to where you need to go. It needs help around it.
Yeah.
And help ain't the low perfidos and that's the point, I think. And hopefully they know now that's where they have to go, and you don't seem very excited about that.
Well, no, because I took, like I said,
maybe I misunderstood.
But I think you did, because basically what he was saying to me, and then he went on to say that Jonathan Clase is a chance to be an elite defender, probably the most upside of any acquisition we acquired.
Yeah, he's an athlete. That's good. That's what you want.
I took from it. I took from it that this was basically about adding potential complementary pieces.
So that was more about what he traded for than what the offseason is going to look like.
Yeah, he didn't answer that. The offseason answer was the first step towards improving the roster. Now you got the complementary pieces. Now you go after the ads and free agency.
There you go.
And via trade.
All right.
So that's where we are with that. Jayson Stark of The Athletic will join us to discuss trade deadline winners and losers. Want to take a little deeper dive into this Yankees thing with Jack Flaherty and the medical concerns. As I said, it kind of intrigues me because, if you're the Dodgers, you don't want to end up getting 3 starts out of Jack Flaherty and then have him go in the IL. If you look at the history of the Yankees last year when they got Frankie Montas, and that deal really backfired on them, I can see why the Yankees would shy away from Jack Flaherty. But I don't want to talk about that, and we'll get Jason's take as well on the Blue Jays retooling and if he thinks they can be competitive in 2025. It's Blair and Barker on the Sportsnet Radio Network and Sportsnet. I'll tell you what, I need to crack the whip around this place.
Nobody pays attention to you.
Crack the whip around here.
Mm-hmm.
It's Blair and Barker. Jays have tomorrow off. An off day in New York in the summer.
What can go wrong?
That's the best. Off day in New York in the summer.
After losing 3 or 4 to the Orioles.
That doesn't matter. It's an off day in New York.
The winning doesn't matter anymore, does it?
No, it's all about the road trip.
So you
nice
shouldn't
hotel,
even say they lost 10-4.
Get up, have a nice breakfast.
Yeah, I can think of like 50 other places I'd rather go to, but that's just me.
Yeah, but you hate people. Given the choice between going to a mountaintop by yourself with just a cigar And
I'd like to have my father and my son. There's a couple of guys, that I hang out with. Yeah, there's
what about
you, maybe. But if you could get up there, I mean,
you'd have to carry me up, in one of those little things. You have to carry me.
I'm a small.
I noticed you didn't mention Hazel's name.
I'm a small because she wouldn't go. I'm a small room guy.
Yeah.
How about that?
You like to keep your friends close.
Absolutely.
Not too close.
I only got like 5 of them.
Yeah, that's true. Me included?
Yeah, but you're a different kind of friend.
I'm a forced friend.
No, that was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's like we've graduated to. I don't know what your title is.
The great Dave Van Horn always used to say at the end of the baseball season, as he was wrapping up his work in the press box, he'd go, "Well, starting tomorrow, I get to choose my own friends."
Yeah. They used to say that all the time in baseball, and I used to say I started that like 4 months ago. Who are you talking to?
Oh, yeah. Anyhow. How did we get in that topic? Oh, I was saying because it's an off day.
That didn't have any friends anyway.
I was going to say an off day in New York is great in the summer. It's splendid. Go down to the village, have a nice dinner, walk around.
That's your cup of tea.
Do a little shopping.
Getting the finger and running over by taxis. Go for it. Yeah. I mean, not mine.
I'll tell you what. You or something else.
Bottom line is, leagues and an off day anytime. That's 5-star. And
off day in New York or off day in Pawtucket.
There was no off days in Pawtucket.
Actually, there was no off days in Pawtucket. Were there?
Adrian, I think, the young guy that umpired behind home plate today is the last dude threw me out in Pawtucket. I called him names that.
He wasn't the guy that said to you, "Hey, if I'm here, you're going to stay here."
That's Dan.
Dan Iassoni. That's still the best story.
I know what you're doing.
Yeah, I know what you're doing. If I'm here all day, you're here all day.
At 10:30 with the 7,500 kids.
Yeah. Well, now that we know that you don't like New York.
Man, it's whatever. It's to each his. I'm too old to care anymore.
Now, the reason I said that is there will be no Blue Jays baseball tomorrow, but there will be Friday. They are playing the Yankees.
Coming off a sweep, the Phillies.
Yeah, which is...
What a time to have Jason on.
Well, it's perfect timing to have Jason on.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to get him on, and that's why he's on. Jayson Stark of The Athletic joining us. See how I did that?
You're such a liar.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. The day after the trading deadline is always one of the great days of the year. How are you guys?
I'm doing well, but I'm really excited about the possibility, and we'll talk about the trade deadline and all that stuff. But I thought of you when the Danny Jansen trade was made, because there is a chance, is there not, that Danny Jansen could play for the Red Sox in the resumption of the game against the Blue Jays, which would make him, I believe, the first person to play for the same team in a game, correct? The two teams in the same game. And that you got to be all over that if that happens. Like, I expect a full report.
Why do you think something like that would be up my alley? Explain it to me.
I mean, that's the first thing I thought of when someone pointed. Actually, someone at our Sportsnet stats department pointed out to me, and I said, "Jayson Stark's already all over this."
Well, I've written a lot about this happening in the minors, and I'm a big fan of stuff like Juan Soto winding up in a suspended game that took place before he was in the big leagues. So he homered before his debut, that kind of thing. But the possibilities here are huge. Not only could he play for two teams in the same game, you could have Jansen catching Jansen for the save of that game.
Oh my! The world's aligning.
Wow.
I mean, you're just going to retire after that point. At that point, aren't you?
Yeah. What do you got to live for?
I'll have a lot of writing to do at that point.
Oh, that's perfect.
That's what I know.
Hey, very quickly, your top line view of the trade deadline. I'm not going to ask you to list all the winners and losers, but I am going to ask you to tell me the teams two teams you thought did really well, and two teams you thought maybe didn't do as well as they should have.
Okay. I mean, in terms of being buyers, the Phillies filled every need.
Mm-hmm.
And I like what the Mariners did, to be honest with you. Like getting Randy Arozarena, probably the best bat traded. Justin Turner, I think, makes any team better, even though he can make the Blue Jays better. And Jimmy Garcia, considering the price tag that was paid for relievers, I like them a lot. And I thought the Padres and Dodgers did well. Of the sellers, the Rays and Marlins, I think, made 16 trades, Jeff, but I like what they got back in every one of them. Losers.
Minnesota had to do more, didn't they?
The Twins had to do more. They had they got themselves 8 games behind, 20 games into the season, and since then they have the best record in the league. But they needed to upgrade starting pitching and probably bullpen, and in a market where like 3 dozen relievers got traded. I just can't believe they couldn't find a way to do more there. I thought the Braves needed to do more. It was a terrible market, but like those two teams didn't move the needle. Didn't the biggest loser have to be the White Sox?
Yeah.
Extreme sellers market and decided not to move Garrett Crochet. Do not believe that his demands or his agent's demands made him untradeable. They went right down to the buzzer talking to, I know, at least 3 teams.
Do you think that he and his agent, and I understand this is kind of an impossible question, do you think they regret now how that message was delivered?
I mean, it was a bad look.
It really was.
A selfish look. I do think quite a few front offices looked at that and thought, what are we getting in this guy? But there were definitely a number of good teams who just didn't even buy it. Thought, okay, the Dodgers are going to trade for Garrett Crochet, and he's going to get to L.A. and then say, oh, I'm so excited to win the World Series. I'll just stand off here in a corner while you guys do all the heavy lifting. Like who would do that?
Yeah,
he's not going to do that. So it was just a bad agent look more than a bad player look.
Jason, do you think the Jays did enough at the trade deadline, and do you think that they are capable of retooling and rolling into 2025 and competing in the American League East?
Kevin, great question. And look, I thought they did well in the selling that they did do. I really liked a lot of the guys they got back. The Kikuchi deal was tremendous. If you saw me on MLB Network yesterday, I said the Blue Jays should have traded Vlad, and I know that's hard. I understand how hard it is. My rationale was this. Can you win this year with him? No. Can you sign him before he hits free agency? It's too late. And are you confident you can win the World Series with him next year? And how can you be? But if you keep him, like, don't you have to be all in to do that now? And I know that they understand that. I still like the core of that team. I just can't believe Bo won't bounce back because I believe in track record. I still like what the rotation ought to be, but they've got so much to do this winter now. Got to rebuild the bullpen, have to replace Kikuchi, have to figure out how all these pieces fit that they've acquired. And the division is so loaded. I mean, the Orioles are getting better and the Red Sox are getting better. The Rays have 1 billion prospects they can option up and down all day long. And Aaron Judge is still going to be playing for the Yankees. So where would you pick the Blue Jays just in their division in 2025 right now?
Yeah, no, listen, we need to hear from Mark Shapiro because I think there's, given what expectations were for this team, the refurbished ballpark, like there's so many factors at play here with Vladdy. Like part of me going into the trade deadline, stepping away from it, I was almost thinking the same thing, but then I kind of closed my eyes and said, how the hell am I going to do 65 Blue Jays talks with a team without Vladdy this year? And then I said, forget it. can't be done. I don't care. I don't care what it does to the long. I'm worried about my short-term future, not the long-term future of the organization, right?
Jason, do you have a feel is it that they don't want to re-sign Vladdy, or does it just not make any sense to re-sign Vladdy?
No, I think they want to, and it makes sense. Does it make sense to Vladdy? We're 5 years in now, and they haven't done it. What would make you think they can do it now?
Well, I'm sure it depends on the number, right?
Well, nobody this close to free agency ever signs. Not in a situation like this where you're 5 years in and he's never signed ever, right? They've never had any traction towards signing him. Yeah. So it means he's going out there, and if he has another year like this, which I don't know if he will, if he does, what's he worth?
Yeah.
The mind boggles. I mean, at his age, he's younger than Adley Rutschman, right? He's a $300, $400, $500 million player, depending on how he performs over the next year and 2 months. There's not a reason that the Blue Jays can't pay him $500 million, but would you be optimistic that that's how this is going to play out?
I was looking at, Kevin and I were talking about this, and I was looking at what it would take to make him the highest paid first baseman in baseball. Now, Bryce Harper's got that 13-year
$330
contract, $330. Freddie Freeman has the highest annual average value, I believe, around 27.
He'll blow through those.
Well, because of his age.
26.
Yeah, and that's, and then you start thinking about it. And then, we even had a caller today point out, if you were Vladdy, because, of course, much of the conjecture around here is, okay, the Jays have got to do, now that they've cleared the decks here, they've got to do something. They've got to throw the fans a bone here. They've got to try to sign Vladdy this before the season's over so you can have a big news conference and all this stuff. But we had a caller point out, if you're Vladdy, don't you wait and see where Juan Soto goes and what he signs for, even though it's a different position and everything? Don't you wait until that? And I thought, it might be a point there.
100% correct. Soto's going to go out there in the market at the same age Vladdy will be when he goes out into the market. Like, Soto's got of consistent production, but Vladdy has so much going for him. He just has to stay healthy and perform, and he's not going to. I doubt he gets a Soto contract, but the Bryce Harper, the Bryce Harper total, if all goes according to his plan, how is that even a discussion point for him?
Yeah.
Bryce was 30, right, or almost approaching 30 when he signed that.
Yeah. I want to shift focus a little bit. We had J.J. Cooper on a little early. It's kind of an interesting discussion about, we talked about ranking prospects and all this, and how, J.J. was talking about, look, let's be realistic. There's a big gap between 1 and 10. Once you get to 75 to 150, there's sort of a beauty is in the eye of the beholder thing. But it is remarkable, isn't it, that with all the trades that were made and all the prospects that moved, there wasn't a top 100 prospect, at least in BA's rankings. There wasn't a top 100 prospect moved. It was just that's strange, isn't it?
People about that. It's 58 trades, not one top 100 prospect, and there are a lot of explanations for it. Teams are obviously more disciplined about that now than they've ever been, but then think about the quality of players who did get traded. Do you know the answer to this question? How many All-Stars, how many of the 70 All-Stars this year, how many of them got traded yesterday or even leading up to the deadline?
I don't know how many.
One, and it was, are you ready? Tanner Scott. So the guys who got traded are not players you trade top 100 prospects for.
Yeah.
If the Jays had traded Vladdy, you think we'd still be saying this?
Yeah, hopefully not.
Well, he wouldn't have done it if they hadn't.
Jeff's not very confident.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, he's not.
I don't know. There may have been that, that high A shortstop that.
Nice,
I
Jeff.
know. I'm just kidding. No, you are right. I mean, that's got to be part of that. Has to be explained by the wild card too, doesn't it?
Well, there were no sellers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so few sellers, and that's directly traceable to the wild card.
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible to fall out of the race in the National League, just about. There really were only a half dozen true sellers. You had some people kind of dabbling in selling, and you had some buyers trading with buyers and people doing the buy, sell, shuffle at the same time. But really, there were 6 sellers when you got right down to it. And that was the other thing. Years when future Hall of Famers get traded, Scherzer, Verlander, whatever, top 100 prospects get traded those years. But we couldn't even get Luis Rengifo traded.
Fair point.
Yesterday.
Fair point.
It was that kind of year.
Jason, Phillies in trouble?
Well, they're playing terrible.
Yeah.
They are, but you know how baseball works, Kevin. I don't need to explain it to you. It's a rhythm sport.
Yeah.
They got to July, and all of a sudden they were playing with that Harper, Schwarber, Real Muto, which disrupted the lineup. Mm-hmm. Then, for the first time in 2 years, they've had starting pitcher injury issues. And all of a sudden the starters aren't pitching as well, or they can't start at all, and they're not getting the same length. So now the bullpen has to pitch more, and now the bullpen's not preserving every single lead that they take, and that's how you get into the thing they're in now. Plus, it's Philadelphia. This is how it always works.
Yeah. Things aren't always linear.
You think?
Jason, as always, we appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
You're the best.
Be well,
buddy.
man. And I'm looking forward to that Danny Jansen
Sleep
story.
good tonight.
Yeah, right? I'm in it.
Take care.
See you, man.
It's Jayson Stark of The Athletic. Damn, I was going to ask about that Yankees thing past Jack Flaherty. Damn it.
I don't think that's a big deal as much as you're making it out to be.
No,
I'm sure they're making that as an excuse. That's why they didn't. They probably wanted more prospects or wanted a name that they weren't willing to give up.
I see that my Diamondbacks are beating the Nationals 5-1 in MLB Network.
Yeah.
AJ Puck is in the game.
Can't wait to watch the Diamondbacks make the World Series again. Nobody will watch.
Did Gabriel Moreno do something? I saw him and Randall Grichuk high-fiving and dancing in the dugout, so I presume.
You're on a roll today. You are.
I presume something. Well, they were high-fiving and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and dancing in the dugout. So there you go. It's interesting. Boy, this is like, I guess this is what we're going to be talking about for the rest of the year is signing Vladdy and how much will it take? Yeah, are you beginning to get that idea that is the thing this fan base is going to talk about? Unless Joey Votto shows up tomorrow.
I would think when Mark talks on August 7th, there's 2 questions you ask. Is the GM going to lose his job, and when are you signing Vladdy? I would think. I mean, somebody I know is going to be there. He better ask one of those 2 questions.
I mean, that's as I said a little bit when I kind of went off the rails during Blue Jays talk. Funny how that happens. Speaking of going off the rails. I mean, the focus right now, man, it's Ross Atkins, you've done your job. Step aside.
Yep.
Now it's up to Mark Shapiro to
do the heavy lifting.
I'm not saying not up to Mark Shapiro. Mark Shapiro shouldn't come out and tell everybody, look, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work. It's never worked that way. Alex never came out and said, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. JP Ricciardi may have. But this is what the year is all about. It's about do they sign Vladdy, and who's in the room, right? Who is making the case? And I would like to think that you got a shot at signing the guy, but Jason's not
making that up.
He's not making that up. The close once you get close to free agency, and you see some of the money being thrown around out there. And, nothing happens in a vacuum. This point was made to me a couple of weeks ago, actually, just by another writer, just texting. But we're talking about Vladdy. And he said, look, first of all, you don't know what the potential market for Vladdy's going to be when he's a free agent. But let's say, for example, the Mets don't re-sign Pete Alonso. Could happen. Let's say the San Francisco Giants do what they usually do, try to sign somebody and it doesn't work out.
Padres.
Padres.
I know there's some interest there.
And also that's a year away. And maybe this doesn't work out. They may have to make some moves. AJ Preller gets fired. I mean, there's all sorts of things you can imagine. As somebody said, you're going to have a 27-year-old, if he's healthy, a 27-year-old first baseman. And if he's hitting like this, a 27-year-old first baseman with those numbers. It is remarkable how that creates an opening for a lot of teams. You know who doesn't have a first baseman then? The Yankees don't have a first baseman then.
No. Who'd be cheaper, Soto or Vladdy? He would cost less than the dude that plays center, which I think for me is a big deal for them. Yeah. You ain't going to pay the guy coming in more than you pay the Judge. Like, that's a thing, right? You got a captain who is bigger than planet Earth.
And
Vladdy cost you a little less.
The other thing, and you never know. The other
Short
thing,
porch and ride, boy.
The other thing that happens too is because there's a universal DH now. Maybe the Phillies say, you know what, man, Bryce Harper, we got DH Bryce Harper. Maybe the Phillies have this is the thing. It's not, but the thing is, this is the way you have to look at it. And I'm sure Vladdy and his people are looking at this. They're looking ahead. Now, if the Jays make him an offer that's probably as much as you're going to make in free agency, you'd probably take it. But if I'm his agent, like I said, I'm looking at these other moves.
Yeah, it's just how confident you think you are that you can have a consistent year all year next year.
See, I think
offensively, that's what it is. It's what have you done for me lately?
I think it's very simple. I think the onus, the only way this gets done is for the Blue Jays to offer more money right now. I think that's. I don't think.
I don't even know what the number would be. I don't know where you'd start. I mean, it's Jason seems to think it would start at $330. That's a lot. Wow, is that a lot, dude? And then you're trying to do other things.
But okay, 2 years down the road, you've got potential of a Barrios opt out. Like you know.
I'm not saying you couldn't work it out, but I'm saying, can you do that plus aircraft carriers?
Well, he will be your aircraft carrier.
No, he's not.
Well,
that's the point.
Then you're not giving
They've already went down this road.
Then you're not giving him $330 million.
The way they've already went down this road, thinking that the core, the two people, can carry this team where they want to go.
I think that
you need more than that.
I think the difference is. I think the difference is by that point you've moved Bo, and that's probably $20 million.
That would help. There you go.
And like know more.
You would have to do things to figure it out and work out.
But that's. I mean, regardless of what else happens,
going here.
That's the story.
From here forward, it is a story. It is the question at any time Mark speaks.
And this will
have to be asked.
And this isn't a surprise. Like I wrote this and said this a long time ago. You know what happens when you don't win? When you're in this situation, when you don't win, people start looking at the clock running down on your core. Yeah, and that's exactly what's happened here.
Well, now the core is one person.
And clearly, that's the way baseball views it as well. That's it for us today. Again, there's no Blue Jays baseball tomorrow, but that doesn't really matter. All you need to know is that there is Blair and Barker tomorrow. Usual time, usual channels. We'll entertain you.
I'm sure I'll yell at him.
He'll probably yell at me as well. Have a good night.